Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1. Human Strategies. Covering Fire, written by Flaming Raven. Humans are not nearly as numerous as the other races of the galaxy. They don't birth in clutches of 10 like the Cax. They aren't genetically grown like the Gensini. They are born with a regular 1-to-1 ratio, with multiple births at once being uncommon amongst their species. As such, they are aware of the importance of every soldier's life. I remember a moment in the war-torn cities of the planet of the Terrans called Mars, where I saw an example of their covering fire. The heavy weapons team had gone down in a neutral zone, where none could cross and survive. Amongst the remains of the weapons team was a designator that fed targeted information to one of the Terran destroyers in orbit above Mars, the HMS Yeet and Delete. The single civilian human male had made it halfway to a team when he caught a ball of ionized plasma to his left thigh. He was down, and it was time for our soldiers to charge. My men had readied their melee weapon and prepped their shields. They were designed for flitting in between cover, not to take sustained fire. My men charged out, and then it happened. A concentrated stream of fire cut through our battle lines. It was a weave of death that cut a direct line through our army. Then I saw him, the human who had been all intents and purposes dead, was crawling towards the bodies of the fallen team, crawling beneath the constant barrage of death from the Terran guns. I designated him a priority target for my heavy repeaters. A moment later, it was as if the two snipers had seen the gunners swivel their weapons to bear on the Terran, because both heavy repeater operators received 2 sniper rounds to the head, each. Eventually, the fire died down, and the trio of my best decided to rush the human. One crested some fallen debris and received a burst of fire from no less than 20 rifles. The next met the same fate. The third was smart enough to throw a grenade before losing his head to one of the Terran sharpshooters. The grenade detonated next to the human. I saw one of his upper limbs fly away. A sigh escaped my 4 lungs. The threat was over. The attrition could begin again. Then I heard it. Cheers from the Terrans. My 5 eyes searched for any sign of another human making a run for the designator. But then I saw him. Missing his leg, arm, and a good portion of his face. The human was still crawling. Then the hail began anew. This time, all the Terrans' weapons were firing at any point that would allow us to see the human. I myself lost 2 eyes just trying to glimpse him. Then I felt something hit the top of my head. Sitting on my lap was a pulsing designator. By my reasoning, I had about 1 minute to get to safe distance. As per our battle mandates, I and my staff retreated first. The soldiers held the line. To any reading this now, do not make my mistake. Die with your men. It is far better fate than what awaits me now. I have failed the Empress. My life is forfeit anyways. Duke Trixicate from the Terexian Empire, written on his bed sheets with his own blood before he was executed for his crimes against the throne. Form of execution, inhalation, chlorpyrifos. End of story. Story number 3. Why is humanity terrifying? Written by Colossal PhD. The humans aren't terrifying because they're strong. They're not terrifying because they're smart. They are terrifying because they never give up. They will not stop trying to achieve their goal unless you kill them, and even then another might just take up their place. We learned that a decade ago, when we still had an empire, when we were the dominant race in the galaxy. We had it all, the biggest fleets, the best soldiers, the largest empire, and one tiny backwater planet housing a measly 12 billion humans managed to undo all of our progress, all of our accomplishments, in a decade. They did it because we attacked first. Thought their attempts at diplomacy were signs of weakness, of cowardice. We were so very wrong. When we sent our fleet to their home world and demanded their surrender, they fought, and it was a brutal fight. We had energy weapons and shields designed to stop energy weapons. But the humans were still using kinetic ones. They were using primitive weapons and destroyed our entire fleet and 5 entire battleships. It did take them almost a month of fighting to defeat our invasion fleet, but that month cost us greatly. The humans had perfected the art of war, perfected hiding in the shadows of gas giants and striking when you're not expecting it. We wanted their planet because we thought that it would be easy to take, because, in our pride, we thought that they wouldn't be able to stand to us. We were so wrong. After the first month of fighting, we showed them our military size and power and demanded they surrender. But they told us there would be no surrender. We laughed at them because in our pride, we thought their first victory was just a fluke, was a mistake on the commander on the fleet side. We were pride-filled. We were wrong. The humans are apex predators. They are persistence hunters. They never give up. They never lose. After us fighting and losing for half a decade, they finally crushed our last fleet. Finally reached our home world. Our leader still wouldn't give up. Said the humans couldn't possibly take our lost fortified world. What they did next was shocking to the point where you'd only believe it if you were there. The humans burnt our world. Instead of landing troops to slowly take it over, they burnt it to ashes. Nothing remains of our home world than burnt rock in a dead system. Then the humans made peace with those of us who remained, and just left back to their home world. And the galaxy was taught to never challenge the humans to war. They will win, no matter what your army size or power. They will always win. That is why humans are terrifying, why they are the monsters parents tell their children about. They are the apex predators of the galaxy, not because of their strength or speed or intelligence, but because they never give up. End of story. Story number 3. So, what did you ask, the great thinking machine destroyer of races? Written by Random 3X. You have my deepest sympathies, Mark, Grable said, resting a hand on his friend's shoulder. For the great machine of thought to choose you as the representative of your species of all things must have been a great shock. It was a big surprise, Mark replied, nodding. Though I'm confident they will not destroy my race for a long time yet. How can you be so certain? Grable asked, convinced his friend was just in denial about the impending doom awaiting his race. Simple. Because of that machine's very nature, of course, Mark replied with a grin reminiscent of a child caught making mischief. How so? Take your race, for instance. You have a hive-minded species. Something we humans were surprised to find was the norm amongst races of this universe. Mark began while gesturing to Grable. The machine goes through all the time till the point that its chosen representative, and takes the greatest minds of that race to answer but one question for that representative. Yes, that is so, Grable agreed, while nodding. Your race, because of their hive-minded nature, would inevitably be drawn to the same conclusions and ideologies, while my race has a uniqueness that is very different. I don't follow, Grable said, tilting his head in confusion. Simply put, because we humans are individuals, we will never share exactly the same view, no matter how much overlap our people have. There will be differences. So, when that machine asked me to ask any question I could fathom, I let my mind go to work trying to find something no human would come to the same conclusion on. Mark's grin only grew more prominent. So what did you ask then? The meaning of life? How did the universe start? There are so many. Grable looked intently at his friend. Well, Mark's grin could barely be contained on his face. First, I'll say I picked something rather childish. Oh? Grable said with an arched brow in surprise. Yes, I asked the greatest minds of humanity a question that'll cause endless debate and never have a real resolution. That is the thing with us. When we make a firm decision, we will defend that idea, even if we are wrong. Please tell me, Mark, what did you ask? Grable now begged. I asked them this. How can a grown adult pick their nose without concealing their actions? Make it so no negative idea will result about him, even in the smallest detail. Mark's eyes now shone with the sheer madness of his question. Grable paused to compose himself. The question you asked the machine, the nexus of all great minds, was how to pick your nose and not look like a childish idiot. Grable finally shouted in shock. You do realize that if you answer it, the machine will destroy your race. Why would you ask such a thing? Grable was nearing epileptic. Well, if whatever I'm going to ask will result in my race's death, I may as well make it a memorable one. Regardless, those great minds will debate this endlessly, as there's no real answer, Mark grinned. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Parky, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Lord Azrakul, and Arcadian.